Halloween is obviously the best holiday, right? It's the one night a year when you get to dress up, get free candy, and scare people, which happen to be my 3 favorite things to do. Even though I definitely watch these episodes year-round, I want to help you guys get ready for the spooky season. I'm Whitney Van Laningham, and these are the best ever cartoon Halloween episodes. Number 13, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Hungry Larry. Let's just say Halloween isn't exactly Mr. Diaz's forte. He epically fails to frighten a group of 8-year-olds with his Frankenstein blow-up doll, so Star intervenes by summoning Hungry Larry, the creepiest ghost she knows. But when Larry arrives, he isn't exactly as fearsome as Janet and Star were hoping. That is, until he eats every single child at the party, including Mrs. Diaz. You'll have to watch it yourself to see what Mr. Diaz does to rescue them, and to get his mojo back. This episode definitely gets horror points for being actually scary. The dripping black walls are gonna give me nightmares. Number 12, Halloween, The Amazing World of Gumball. Why does every episode of this show feel like Darwin and Gumball are on drugs? Carrie gives the guys 1 drop of what I can only imagine is the equivalent to ghost absinthe, and both of them are transported to the most bangin' Halloween rave in the afterlife. But when one of the undead discover that Darwin and Gumball are mortals, our dudes have no choice but to drink almost a full bottle of ghost potion. The boys rise out of their bodies as ghosts and decide to party and pull pranks in their new ghost forms. But Carrie warns them, if they don't get back to their bodies by midnight, they'll get stuck in the underworld. At this point, Annalise is also hallucinating on absinthe, and all 3 of them almost get stuck in the underworld trying to get their meat suits back. I'm not saying you should do hallucinogens on Halloween, but I'm also not saying this episode isn't super fun. Number 11, Hey Arnold, Headless Cabby. Arnold, Gerald, Stinky, Sid, and Harold are having a sleepover when Arnold tells the story of the Headless Cabby. To be honest, I like Stinky's story of Monkey Cat, the banana-eating, milk-drinking horror monster, but that's just me. Legend has it that a horrible ghost lady tricks a cabbie into following the sound of her dog barking into the woods. He accidentally decapitates himself when the scarf she wrapped around his neck gets stuck on a tree branch. Harold is super freaked out, but the gang talks him into taking a shortcut through the park. It seems like their minds are playing tricks on them, but do the ghost woman and her Scotty dog and the man with the golden hook for an arm actually exist? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure Ernie doesn't die in this series, so he's probably fine. Number 10, Gravity Falls, Summerween. Because everyone in Gravity Falls loves Halloween so much, they celebrate it twice. Once in October like everyone else, and once in June like freaks of nature. But this Summerween, a deadly monster called a Summerween trickster threatens to eat Dipper, Mabel, Seuss, Candy Chew, and Grenda if they don't bring him 500 pieces of Halloween candy by the time the last jack-o'-melon is blown out. The problem is, Dipper thinks he's too old for Halloween and would rather go to a party with Wendy than trick-or-treat with his sister. Will they get their shiz together in time to defeat the trickster? Not gonna spoil it for you, but the final battle with this monster is pretty freaking cool. Number 9, Steven Universe Horror Club. When Steven, Sadie, Lars, and Ronaldo go to the lighthouse to watch a horror movie, Lars and Ronaldo aren't exactly getting along. All of a sudden, the house comes to life, and Ronaldo insists that it must be a ghost. An invisible entity carves Lars' name into the wall, and the wall itself turns red with veins and even seems to beat and pulse like a heart. The lighthouse floor opens up and swallows Sadie alive, so Ronaldo tries to sacrifice Lars into the wall to get her back. Steven ends up saving both of them, and the broken wall pops out a gem along with Sadie. The gem starts to play a hologram message that shows the day Ronaldo and Lars stop being friends. Lars carved his name into the wood panel of the lighthouse, which made the gem feel trapped and afraid. Lars and Ronaldo eventually work things out, but I still want to know what the hell was with that wall heart. Number 8, Rugrats Candy Bar Creepshow. Honestly, the babies scared the adults way more than the adults scared the trick-or-treaters with their haunted house. When Angelica tells the babies about Reptar bars, they become obsessed with them to the point of breaking into the haunted house that Dee Dee, Stu, and Drew built for the neighborhood trick-or-treaters. The babies end up traumatizing Angelica and some other 3-year-olds and end up stealing way more grams of sugar than any baby should ever ingest in their first year of life. But god damn it, I wish the Reptar bars were real! Number 7, Adventure Time, The Creeps. Fun fact, did you know that the Adventure Time Halloween special featured the first iteration of Shoko? For those of you who don't watch Adventure Time, Shoko normally looks like this, and she's a version of Finn from a past life. Anyways, Finn and Jake, or should I say Prince Hot Bob and Randy Butternubs, arrive at a masquerade ball in a spooky castle with PB, Cinnamon Buns, BMO, and Lumpy Space Princess. They all receive a note from a ghost that says he's gonna possess one of them and murder the others. So naturally, Cinnamon Bun is the first to die. The gang gets picked off by the ghost one by one until only Finn and Jake are left. I'm not gonna spoil the twist for you, because that would be mean, but you should go watch it. My Adventure Time masquerade name would be Princess Burger Buns. Number 6, Ah Real Monsters, The Switching Hour. Did you guys know that the pilot episode of Ah Real Monsters was also its Halloween special? In this episode, we're introduced to Ickis, Crumb, and Oblina for the first time, as well as their teacher, the Grumble. The Grumble decides that they mucked up scaring an 8-year-old during their exam and grounds them from going out on Halloween night. Of course, the trio decides to sneak out with the other bad kids and head out for the night. A kid named Nicky dressed up as Ickis for Halloween, and Oblina and Crumb accidentally take this human boy back to the monster world with them. This means that Ickis gets stuck in the human world as Nicky. The animation on the show is already pretty gruesome, but the Halloween episode definitely delivers a little extra spook. Number 5, Ed, Edd, and Eddy Boo Ha Ha. Damn dudes, this is way too spooky for a kid's show. Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Halloween special was all about how the guys are trying to find Spookyville on a map that Eddy's brother gave them. Unfortunately, Ed watched way too many horror movies before leaving the house and starts having acid flashbacks where all the kids in the neighborhood turn into horrific monsters. As you can imagine, it's very, very hard to follow a map when your friend is tripping balls and beating up every kid he comes into contact with like a goddamn Florida man. In the end, it turns out that Spookyville doesn't exist, and Eddy's brother is a butthole. Kind of the worst Halloween ever, but at least Ed got a free ticket to Halloween Horror Nights in his own cul-de-sac. Number 4, The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror 5. Even the couch gag is scary in this one. The 1994 edition of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror series is a 3-parter, including a parody of The Shining, a surrealist horror short, and a nightmare where the kids at Bart and Lisa's school are getting eaten by teachers. Willie doesn't want a lawsuit, so he tells Bart that he has the shinning, and Homer goes on a full family annihilator rampage when he finds out there's no cable or beer at the house. The Shining is one of my favorite horror movies, and there are tons of Stanley Kubrick Easter eggs in this episode. You got the elevator full of blood, the spooky maze, Moe is the ghost bartender Lloyd, the creepy typewriter, Marge warding off Homer with the baseball bat, Sherry and Terry as the Shining twins, and a billion more bizarre Kubrickian things. Part 2 of the episode is weird as heck, man, and that's because it was a parody of A Sound of Thunder. Basically, Homer gets his hand stuck in a toaster that doubles as a portal gun, which he uses to blast himself into other versions of his universe. Each one is creepier than the next, but nothing is scarier than James Earl Jones's voice coming out of Maggie.
This is indeed a disturbing universe.
A disturbing universe indeed, Maggie. Lastly, Bart has a nightmare that Mr. Skinner is sending kids to detention so that lunch lady Doris can cook them up into lunch for the staff. It turns out that it was all a dream, but then Bart wakes up in a world where fog can turn you inside out, so maybe he got a hold of his dad's portal toaster somehow? Number 3, Rocko's Modern Life, Sugar Frosted Frights / Ed is Dead, a Thriller. This 2-part Halloween special was a lot scarier when I was a kid, but even so, the episode still holds up for me. The hopping Hessian from Sugar Frosted Frights is actually pretty scary. He's an old senile ghost who haunts the back of the photo hut with a severed leg that doesn't actually belong to him. But the whole B-plot of Filbert getting roid rage from eating too much candy kinda tones it down enough to make it kid-friendly. I don't know, I wish they had done a deeper dive into the lore of the hopping Hessian, but whatever, it's still one of my favorites. Ed is Dead is amazing though. I totally thought that Mrs. Bighead had murdered Mr. Bighead when I first watched it. Rocko overhears Bev talking about Ed in a way that kinda sorta sounds like she killed him and buried him in the backyard. And the things he sees from his bedroom window further convince him that there is a real burb situation happening next door. When he confronts her about killing her husband, it turns out that Mr. Bighead just had a wart removed from his ass. Spooky. Number 2, Invader Zim Halloween Spectacular Spooky Doom. Nobody does spooky better than Jonan Vasquez, so obviously the Invader Zim Halloween Spectacular Spooky Doom episode is super dark and scary. The special starts off with Dib being dragged away screaming by men in white coats and a light-up collar to the crazy house for boys, and it only gets weirder from there. Dib keeps disappearing and reappearing in a nightmare alternative reality where everyone's a monster. And the monsters seem to think he's the chosen one, born to open the portal to the human world so that they can take over. Zim and Dib manage to convince Nightmare Bitters and the rest of the Halloweenies that the human world is far scarier than the monster world, and it works. The Halloweenies retreat to the Nightmare world and the portal closes for good. Number 1, Bob's Burgers: The Haunting. One of the reasons Bob's Burgers is one of my favorite shows is how much the Belcher family loves each other. The Haunting is hands down my favorite episode. Louise never gets scared at haunted houses, so this year her family is determined to terrify her. They end up at a haunted house full of ghosts, grotesque baby dolls, cult leaders, and a ring of fire. Louise loses her mind when one of the cult members pops up behind her, and Linda catches the perfect picture of her freaking out. In the end, it turns out that Bob, Linda, Tina, Jean, Teddy, and Mort banded together to create the ultimate haunted house for Louise. Also, the Boys for Now's music video for I Love You So Much It's Scary is kind of the best thing ever. These are my favorite Halloween cartoon specials, but I want to know which ones you love in the comments. Like and subscribe to Nerdwire, and be sure to check us out on Plex and Roku. Happy haunting!
I'm Randy Butternubs.
Spooky.